and let's move rapidly on to the new care models update and where we are.
Thank you, Chairman. It's probably just worth reminding everyone that at the heart of the new care models programme is the principle that if we're to achieve the objectives of the 5-year forward view, in other words, if we're to close those gaps in terms of quality of care, health outcomes and use of resources, then we need to support people in working more effectively across these traditional boundaries between, for instance, general practice and acute services, between health and social care, between mental and physical health. And there can often be a lot of sort of technical detail in the new care models programme, but when you strip all of that away, that's the overall objective that we're still working to. What we've done in this paper is, I think, two main things. The first is to say a bit about how we're working particularly with the Vanguard sites. So these are the 14 sites that are developing what we've called multi-specialty community providers, bringing together general practice, community health services, mental health services and adult social care typically, and the 9 Vanguard sites that are going a step further and typically integrating all of that with acute, more specialist services. So the work we're doing with NHS England, with those Vanguard sites, to make sure that we learn as quickly as possible about where and how it is that individual health economies are beginning to achieve those benefits. And I won't go into detail here because it's in the paper, but we have got I think a good programme in place to understand from each of those individual sites what are their what does their logic model say? What's the hypothesis about how they're going to achieve improvements in quality health outcomes and efficiency, and then track on a monthly or quarterly basis how far they're achieving those benefits, and that enables us and them to go back and understand if benefits aren't coming through as quickly as possible, why that is and how they might need to course correct. The second thing we've done in this paper is try to summarise the work we're doing to support these new models of care in actually getting off the ground and then making sure that there are streamlined forms of oversight. And if I could just touch briefly on each of those. In lots of cases, we now have organisations who are working much more collaboratively with each other locally, but without changing any of the current contractual or commissioning systems. And some of those areas call themselves things like accountable care systems. You can get very hung up on the terminology. Where they're collaborating in that way, then our general encouragement is to keep on doing that. There are circumstances, however, where providers and commissioners want to enter into a very different type of commissioning and contractual relationship, where effectively what happens is that you hold a single provider accountable for a combined set of services and outcomes. So rather than multiple contracts covering general practice, mental health, community and so forth, you have a single contract, and typically underpinning that a single budget, so a whole population budget. And that really puts the onus on that provider to take responsibility for working out how you use those resources, how you use that whole population budget to best effect. So this is quite novel, and what we've done with NHS England is to set up a joint process that enables us to test before any local health economies enter into those arrangements, check first of all that it does make strategic sense for the local health system, and for those purposes we are, for instance, looking at whether it fits in with their emerging sustainability and transformation plan, whether they've considered the impact on other providers in the local health economy, not just those who are going to be directly involved in the new care model. And second, we're looking at whether, assuming the strategic case stacks up, whether they've done the right due diligence in terms of making sure that the contractual arrangements are watertight, making sure that where there are potential impacts on other providers in the system, that they've got mitigation plans to address those impacts. And the principle underpinning this work is that whilst on the one hand NHS England needs to assure itself that the commissioning arrangements are watertight, and we need to assure ourselves that the impact on individual trusts or FTs has been appropriately thought through, we're using a single process, a single source of data, and at the end of the day a shared judgment between ourselves and NHS England as to whether this is the right thing to do for that health economy. And then the second and final thing I'll touch on is in relation to oversight. We have a principle for all providers, not just those engaged in new care models, that we want to get very quickly to a world in which it does not look and feel, nor is it the case, that they are getting multiple interventions from different agencies. So when things start to go wrong, people's experience at the moment is that the Commissioner will come in and ask lots of questions, NHS Improvement may come in and ask further questions, the CQC may come in and ask further questions. So between us and NHS England and CQC, we are looking to move towards single forms of oversight where, yes, you do ask the right questions, but you do so once and ask for a single response. The new Care Models programme provides us, we think, with a really good opportunity to take that approach even further, where you're setting up one of these new arrangements, either with a multi-specialty community provider or a fully integrated primary acute care system. We don't think it'll ever mean, or not in the foreseeable future, we don't think it'll ever mean that it's only NHS Improvement or only the Commission's doing that oversight. Each of us have distinct responsibilities and each of us bring different things to the table. So, for instance, we wouldn't expect NHS Improvement necessarily to have particular expertise in relation to population health issues or some aspects of general practice. Conversely, we wouldn't expect commissioners to be able to bring to the table what we bring by way of some quality or financial improvement programmes. So it'll always be a mix. But with these early vanguard sites, what we're trying to do is move to a point where it looks and feels from the provider's point of view like a single oversight process, one set of data, and where there's cause for concern, the commissioners and ourselves in NHS Improvement get together and agree on a single system response.
Thank you, Ben. And of course, board members know that we have got some board teach-in sessions, more detailed ability to delve into the single care models later on in October and November. But within that context, are there any questions now for Ben on the new care models? So Sarah and then Caroline.
I thought great paper, particularly encouraged by the couple of examples you gave of vanguards that apparently already on a very small scale seem to be working. I mean, to me the interesting thing is how quickly we can produce the evidence that says they do work and then spread them, because so much of the issue around the NHS is, well, it won't work here, and we just need to be able to move these at speed if we can see that they're working, because we're on a burning platform in many ways.
I think there's an important point there in terms of the link between this and our improvement faculty, and the way in which we create the improvement portal environment where people are tapping into good ideas, and we'll come back to that later. Caroline.
To the single model hospital that we were seeing a demonstration of last week.
Yes.
Is really important in that, isn't it? I'm just trying to get my brain round the process, really. So if I describe it, and you can tell me whether I've got it right. So essentially, vanguards are experiments, different models, different ideas bubbling up within local health communities about how to do things better with a single care model. Once they've been established and trialled, they can move into being permanent arrangements or more permanent arrangements with a sort of authorisation and an oversight model that we will approve. They've got to, and one of the questions in my mind is, how complex does that get? How long is that going to be? How can we help avoid these brilliant new ideas that are making such progress getting sort of bogged down for 6 months in competition commission, EU procurement rules, our oversight model, the CQC, whatever.
So what this isn't is a traditional pilot programme where we say to a limited group of people, you can test this, and if it works, but only if it works, we will roll it out to other areas of the country. We've deliberately from the start avoided that approach. The significance of the vanguards is not that they have an exclusive right to test these new models of care, and indeed there are a number of other examples springing up around the country that are not formally within the Vanguard programme, and we think that's great. That's great. The significance of the Vanguard programme is that we, NHS England, Health Education England, and other arm's length bodies are giving them targeted support to help them more quickly get to the point where they can both demonstrate benefits locally and distill learning to then enable other people to more rapidly spread this. But we're deliberately trying to avoid a sequential approach where only when you get to that stage do we give other people permission to go.
And can we speed the process through? Are there any things we can do to help?
We hope we're doing that already. So lots of the work summarised in the paper is designed to speed the process by, well, to take some examples, by busting some myths about procurement and competition. We don't think there's anything in competition regulations that gets in the way of these new care models, and we also think that there's a relatively simple way of navigating one's way through the requirements to, at the very least, publish the intention to enter into contracts, and doing that doesn't necessarily necessitate a competitive procurement process. We're providing support to providers in doing that, and the joint assurance process I described earlier, although I suppose there's a risk that could be perceived as somehow slowing things down, it's intended to do the exact opposite. It's intending to say, look, rather than risk different elements of the system asking different questions at different points in time about whether you're ready to go forward, we'll do that in one place. So a single streamlined process that gets everybody to the point where they either say, yes, this is good to go, let's get on with it, or no, there are some issues that you need to work through more fully.
And there's
in doing that, we're working very closely with NHS, presumably.
Incredibly closely.
And there's good working from Stephen's team, in particular Catherine Davis and the competition experts that we have in the organisation, to align ourselves with how we can do things within the both the law and the spirit of the law. Stephen.
I mean, we will run the assurance process, and I'm all for speed and innovation and taking a bit of risk, but I gave evidence to the Public Accounts Committee 10 days ago about one of these that went wrong. So we do need to make sure we get these checkpoints right and the right expertise, and making sure that undue risk isn't taken, because they're not without risk. So yes, at speed and break through the bureaucracy, but we do need to make sure key risks are addressed before they go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, are we happy?
I just wanted to compliment Ben on an admirably brief and clear paper. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sigurd. I was going to say that the contribution Ben's made since he's arrived from the department has been exceptional, and you know that from me, so that I'll say it in the board.
Yeah, absolutely.